When I first played The Last of Us Part 2 in 2020, I came away from it feeling annoyed, confused, and exhausted. Annoyed by the direction they went, confused by how they thought it was a good idea, and exhausted by the amount of obstacles put in my way to experience a story I wasn't enjoying anyways. When I rolled credits 6 years ago, I just sat there thinking, that's it? After everything I went through to have that confrontation with Abby, and I don't get to finish the job. I don't even get the choice of finishing the job or letting her go. It was extremely lackluster. So much so that for 6 years, I stayed away from the game. I stuck to replaying the first game when I wanted to experience the world of The Last of Us, a world that I hold very, very dear, a world that holds one of my favorite stories ever told. I simply ignored an entire continuation based on the feelings of 19-year-old me. It's 2026 now, and I'm 25 years old. And I like to think I've grown. I've matured, at least in some ways. So I went back. I dived back in with the idea. I hated The Last of Us Part 2 in 2020. How about now? Before I continue, I want to get two things out of the way now. First, and most importantly, this video is not some fuck the wokes shit. My issues with the story told were never about the fact that Ellie is gay, Abby is buff as fuck, or that Lev is trans. My issue came down to the story told, and I'll get into that. Secondly, even in 2020, when I was mad about the story, I fully recognized how incredible the game looked and felt. It's visually unbelievable, and the combat is one of the best feeling systems in all of gaming. It was that way back then, it's that way now, so this video will focus on the story of The Last of Us Part 2. I'd like to start off by putting some things into perspective. The Last of Us Part 1 is, at the very least, a top 3 game of all time for me. I played the game when I was 14 on my PS3, and like many people, was infatuated with the relationship between Joel and Ellie. It was a real watershed moment for me as a gamer. It led to me trying out many other incredible games. So fast forward 7 years, and it's finally time for the second game. All of the marketing looks great, Ellie is seeking some sort of revenge, and based on all of the trailers, Joel is there with her. Joel and Ellie ride once more. Let's fucking go. I was so excited to see the continuation of the first game. I was so ready to experience this world again and see how Neil and the team at Naughty Dog had built upon their masterpiece. Color me shocked when, as we all know, within the first 2 hours of the game, Joel gets brutally killed by some girl named Abby and her crew. Now, as much as I was mad by the simple fact that he was dead, I was more so upset by the fact that Naughty Dog outright lied in their trailer. When Ellie is in a bit of a pinch in Hillcrest, Jesse shows up to save her. Ellie asks him, "What the hell are you doing here?" And Jesse responds with, "You really think I'd let you do this on your own?" Now, let me show you a real-life, actual trailer from Naughty Dog prior to the game's release.
What the hell are you doing here?
You think I'd let you do this on your own?
Do you see my issue now? This alone killed my vibe to such an intense degree that I outright stopped playing for the night. I continued on the next day, just as pissed as I was, but at least now aware that there was no more Joel to be seen in this game. Unfortunately, the feeling never really subsided. This is where I think that I, the player, was a bit blinded. I was so annoyed by the fact that Joel was killed that I refused to give anyone else a chance. All of these new characters, Dina, Jesse, Abby, Owen, Lev, all of them. I gave no thought to their story, which made the fact that you do play as Abby for a really long time that much more frustrating. You spend a substantial amount of time as Abby, experiencing the 3 days leading up to the theater confrontation between Abby and Ellie, and I was just not feeling it. I hated that they were making me play as the person who killed Joel. I hated that they were trying to get me to sympathize with her. I hated most of all that they made me try to kill Ellie. I hated Dina for trying to stop Ellie from going out to find Abby after Tommy gave her a new lead at the farm. I hated all of it. So, again, by the end of the game, when I was finally given the moment to kill Abby and Ellie lets her go, I just sat there, annoyed, confused, and exhausted. After a few years, though, after it all settled in, after the first season of the show, which is fantastic, after the second season of the show, which is shit, I could recognize that I didn't give the game a fair shot. I knew that I was blinded by my own anger, even if I can recognize that Naughty Dog lying in their trailer is a valid reason to be mad. It completely ruined the game for me. I'd say around 2024, I knew that I wanted to give the game another try, but it's just not something that I ever found the time to do. Another game always took my time, or I just wasn't in the right headspace. All of that led to May of 2026, and I was finally ready. So, with all of my anger and hatred put aside, how do I feel about The Last of Us Part 2 now? While I do have some issues with the game, I think the game is fantastic. I think when I really got down to it, when I put all of my biases aside about Joel and Ellie, the game forced me to slowly but surely rationalize with Abby and realize that she is not the bad person here. She never was. But they make the lead up to that conclusion so gradual. In a lot of ways, they put you into the perspective of Joel in the first game, just to a much more intense degree. Joel wants nothing to do with Ellie at the start, and then eventually you watch Ellie open up and their relationship blossoms. At the start, I despised everything about Abby. I hated her voice, I hated her face, I wanted to destroy her, and that's the fire that pushed me through Seattle as Ellie. But then the game switches to Abby, and you start to see her open up. You live her past. You see the kind of person her father was. You watch her mentally check out of the WLF and help two scars, yes, but more than that, two children in dire need of help. She saves them over and over and over again when she really doesn't have to. She is her own person with her own insecurities and her own fears, and at the end of the day, she just wants to do right by her father, who, for all intents and purposes, was on the cusp of saving the world if it wasn't for some selfish, maniacal killing machine named Joel Miller. So, by the time you do get to that theater confrontation and you are forced into combat against Ellie, it feels justified. It feels warranted. I was just as much connected to Abby as I was to Ellie, so while my love for Ellie was still there, I wasn't angry this time. I wasn't conflicted. I did what I had to do to keep Abby alive. And similarly, I wasn't angry at Dina for trying to stop Ellie from chasing Abby down. She had a dream life. She had a baby. She had a gorgeous farm in a valley in Wyoming. Instead, I was angry at Tommy for bringing this problem once again to Ellie's doorstep and expecting her to drop everything, abandon Dina and their baby to chase a ghost of her past. And I was even angrier at Ellie for eventually going through with it and abandoning her family. The entire last portion of the game, when you're playing as Ellie, is a train wreck. I had absolutely no motivation to finish the job that Ellie is so possessed by. By this point, I was totally at odds with Ellie and her wants and her desires, but I owed it to myself to keep going and finally understand how I felt about this game all of these years later, so I did. I pressed forward, I mowed down all of the rattlers I could find without a second thought, I freed the prisoners, and I got to the moment I was dreading. I found Abby, malnourished and strung up, and that feeling of total conflict with Ellie was burning in my stomach. I did not want this, but Ellie did, and in that moment, I felt like Dina, I felt like Jesse, forced into a mission that I knew had gone too far. So I fought, I stabbed, I punched, and by the end of the fight, when Ellie lets Abby go, when Ellie returns to an empty home, I once again sat there, annoyed, confused, and exhausted. Annoyed that Ellie threw it all away, confused by how she thought it was going to be worth it, and exhausted by this grim world that tore Ellie and Abby's life apart.